2, 1.
Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
To Muscle Science for Women. We're your favorite hosts of all time, Ashleigh and Rachel. We're here for you. We hope you're having a great day.
You're so good at these intros now.
Yep, I know. It's so smooth. It's like, it's crazy. All I can hear is my child screaming in the background. It's the amount of like, not multitasking. What is it, like blinders you have to put on when you're a toddler parent? Also, I just want to say, I'll just get this out of the way because I got to talk about my kid for a second. But anybody who's listening who has or had a toddler, and you know that phase where they talk a lot and it's hilarious and everything they say is hilarious and most of it doesn't make any sense, but you can still understand because they're saying words. And Magnus speaks really well for his age. Like, he talks a lot. And the other day, just as an example of the crap that he's saying to me on a daily basis, the other day I wanted him to come downstairs so I could change his diaper because we had to go somewhere. And I'm like, hey, let's go. We got to go downstairs. I got to change your diaper. And he said, I got to go get my truck first. Deal with it, sweetheart. He told me to deal with it, sweetheart. That's what he said to me.
Oh my God.
I learned that was from a movie that he watched. It was from like a kid's movie. Obviously, it was like Sing or something. I don't know. But the fact that he picked up on that sentence and then knew when to use it, I was just like, this kid definitely has my sass. He may look a little bit more like his dad, but he's got my personality for sure. And also the degree to which he loves treats. He's always asking for treats, which in his
I saw your story like yesterday where it was like that point where you have to like hide your food from your
yeah, but of course he mostly only wants to eat my food. Like, Alex could walk around with like, you know, anything and he's just like, whatever. And then I'm like hiding food behind like my hand. He's like, what are you eating? What are you eating? Anyway, my kid's hilarious, but I just had to get that out of the way. We've got lots of questions, so should we dive into some?
Yeah, let's jump into some questions and then we can maybe go into some rants towards the end, because
I've always got some locked and loaded. Okay. I will read this one from a fellow Ashleigh. She says, hi, Ashleigh and Rachel. I recently found your podcast as I'm starting on my strength training journey, and I love all the information and advice you give. Yay. Your episode where you talked about letting go on vacation came at the perfect time as I was headed to vacation, and it really helped me enjoy myself more. So thank you. Yes, we love it when people enjoy their vacations. If you're spending the money, have a good time is what I think. Okay. She has a couple questions. First one, I hear a lot about picking workouts that work for your body structure and would love to know more about what that means. For example, when I do single leg RDLs, I find that my left side feels fine, but when I do my right side, my lower back starts to hurt. Are there certain exercises that just don't work for some people, or is there something I need to adjust, like lower the weight? So let's answer that question first, and then we'll get to it because I think that's interesting.
That's a great question. And it's also an interesting example because there's like a yes and a no that I'm going to say. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I just kind of took over. So yes to the question of, she said she's heard about picking workouts that work for your body structure and would love to know more about it. So in terms of workouts, I would correct that to say picking movements and specific exercises that work for your specific body structure. And so this comes down to, we talk about this all the time, right? Like, you know, if you don't love barbell squats, or maybe you're a taller person who has different limb length, I won't go into all that. But like for me, I have longer thigh bones or thighs, quads, whatever you want to call them, and a shorter torso. So for me, when I squat, especially with a barbell on my back, it's not super comfy, especially if I'm trying to get lower and get, you know, knee flexion to hit those quad gains. I have to elevate my heels, and it's just not the most comfy movement. So I don't barbell squat because it just, with my body structure, I don't love it. So I choose all the other options that you can choose for a squat pattern that work better for me and that I enjoy more. So with that, that is absolutely a thing. However, with this specific example of, she said, for example, when I do single leg RDLs, I find that my left side feels fine, but when I do my right side, my lower back starts to hurt. So this would be an example, especially because it's a single leg movement and you're noticing one side is fine and the other's not. This is probably actually an example of something that you probably should figure out rather than just not do. And it's a clear sign that you have a potential imbalance from one side to the other. You not saying that you have to do single leg RDLs, but this is it's telling you something, right? These are clues that lead to something deeper that may be going on. And so my suggestion would be not to work through the pain, not to just do the single leg RDLs and do them because they're painful, figure out what's the underlying cause of that. And that's what's actually really cool about doing single leg movements and single arm movements is you can start to see like, do I have imbalances? What are some things that I can work on? Do I need to potentially see a physiotherapist or, see someone who can kind of help me figure out what's going on, whether it's with maybe a hip shift or maybe one side is just stronger than the other. So you have to work on strengthening the other side, right? So that's what I would kind of think about with that side of it. It's not that you should just not do single leg movements because one side hurts. We should figure out why. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I completely agree because as I was reading it, I was thinking like, yes, definitely everybody has exercises that aren't going to be optimal for them. But then when she mentioned RDLs and the situation, I was like, sounds like you just have one side that's stronger than the other and you need to maybe work on that. I don't think I have anything to add, but I do have a question. Because you're better with the physiology part. One of the only exercises that I like never do because I've never liked how it felt. I think I've mentioned this to you before. And I know there's different setups and stuff, but leg press, I just don't like leg press. Like I'll do any lower body style. I'll do any kind of squatting. I'll do any kind of RDL, split squat, lunges, whatever. I've never enjoyed leg press. What do you think would be like, besides maybe it's just me mentally not liking it? Like, is there like an anatomical reason why I might not enjoy those?
Yeah, so there could be a few different things. I mean, it could be the type of like there's different types of leg presses, so different angles that, whether you're seated up straight or it's more like a 45-degree angle leg press. So those are different. I know for myself, it's hard in a 45-degree angle. Again, because of my structure too and like my crap ankle mobility. Wow, that was a weird way that came out. It's hard for me to get low like in those leg presses. Yeah, with knee flexion. So kind of manipulating the like foot position can help. Changing, like adding something behind your back to basically change the angle a little bit or sitting on something. Sometimes that can help. But I mean, it also could just be that maybe you have to, because you're so strong, you have to load the weight up so much that it might, to get something out of it because you got like really huge freaking legs. And
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say I'm too strong to do leg
you're
press.
too strong.
But realistically, what you did just mention about, I know I have garbage ankle mobility, which for some reason doesn't significantly impact like a barbell back squat, but I would guess that it does impact the discomfort that I feel, especially doing the 45-degree leg press. Like something about the ankle mobility, and then it's kind of impacting my knees and it doesn't feel good, and going really deep doesn't feel good. But I can go super deep in almost any other movement. So again, I mean, I feel good about it because at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. I'm like, I can never do a leg press again and absolutely be fine and have big, strong legs. Like leg press, get out of here anyway. But maybe that's also just because I don't like it. It doesn't feel good for me. So I'm going to like talk crap about a leg press. But anyway, I feel like there are other better exercises to do. Also, I wanted to tell you, since we're on the topic of this and RDLs and how jacked and huge I am, obviously, I was doing with my wrist straps today. I was doing like assisted, staggered stance, like single leg RDLs. And I was doing like 65, 75 pounds, 70 pounds. I didn't go up to 75. And I was like, okay, Rachel, yeah, fine, wrist straps. Cause obviously I wasn't going to do that heavy. I can't, my like little useless hands, I cannot grip that heavy of a dumbbell, but like,
can we rewind this? I'm gonna edit this myself and I'm gonna rewind and we're gonna put Ashley just said that I was right about the wrist straps.
First of all, I say you're right about pretty much everything. Let's be clear. And if we did like a supercut podcast someday of just us talking about wrist straps, first of all, I do acknowledge the point of what you're saying of like, if you're trying to target specific muscles and especially maybe big, strong ones that aren't as strong as your like useless little weak baby hands like I have, you need some wrist straps. My argument has always been, and I think you agree, is that we should be probably focusing more or trying to do like a good balance of not wrist strap assisted movements, because you should be trying to get a strong grip strength.
Yeah.
And you should be trying to do some more like real world movements. Like, it's great to build big, strong hamstrings. Great. But if you can't do anything unless your wrists are strapped into a weight, like maybe you've got other problems you need to fix. And also I'm just like old and grumpy, and I'm just like, you shouldn't be using wrist straps for everything. So anyway, I was proud of my RDLs today. I got to go pretty heavy and I used a wrist strap, and I thought of you, and there you go.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
Love it.
All right, let's get to the second question that Ashleigh asked, because we're still here recording a podcast. Okay.
Do you want me to read this one?
No, I'll read it because you can answer it, because I've been talking a lot. How often should you be changing up your workouts? We have limited equipment in my apartment gym, no free weights. She's got a Smith machine, cable, some other stuff. I'm wondering how
that doesn't sound like a limited equipment to me. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm wondering how much progress I can make doing the same exercises before I should look to expand and go to a gym.
So the reason I said that is because she said she has a Smith machine and she has a cable machine. There's a lot you can do with that. When she says no free weights, I'm assuming she means like no barbells. But if you have a Smith machine and cables, likely you'll have
no
dumbbells.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a question. I have a feeling she meant no barbells. So if you have dumbbells, a Smith machine and cables, and a couple targeting machines, like you could get a lot done with that. It all comes down, in my opinion, to do you know how, like what exercises to program in the way that allows for progression, allows for you to not get burnt out, get bored, things like that. And that all comes back to like, if you don't know how to program yourself, then get a coach to program for you or follow a program. Muscle Science for Women, we program for you. We do all the work. So you just have to follow it. So in terms of progressing, actually, you do not want to be changing things up too often, because we talk about this all the time. Like the most important thing for building muscle is progressive overload, right? Doing another rep, doing a little bit more weight, time under tension, better execution, all of that. And the only way to be able to do that and know you're doing that is if you stick with a movement for a long enough period of time to know that you're progressing. And typically that's going to be, in my opinion, like for most people, it's a minimum of 4 weeks, especially on the big movements, like the ones that are take more technicalities like squats and RDLs and deadlifts and those types of things, versus like maybe some of the smaller movements. Like we talk about this in our shoulder program, the lateral raises and, things like that. So to answer this question, I would say if you have the equipment like that you listed and some dumbbells, you could probably, if you're following a good progressive program, you'd probably never have to join a gym unless you want to.
Yeah.
And you do not want to be switching up your movements too often, because you will actually get less out of that if you do that.
Yep, I agree. I think maybe just closing the loop on the first question, because I realized we maybe didn't fully close it in terms of, Rachel said, yes, there are some exercises that are going to be better or worse for you based on your anatomy and maybe pre-existing mobility issues or injuries or whatever. That is true. But I think it's probably also worth for the individual thinking about when they're programming or when they're picking exercises, thinking about things like, what is your end goal? What are you trying to achieve? What are the best exercises for that? Also, do you enjoy something? Because to my point about the leg press, if leg press was the only way to get strong quads, I'd be screwed because I just don't like it, right? So even if someone tells you the holy grail of strength is deadlifts and you hate deadlifts, there are other things you can do always. So keep that in mind. There are always other options, but also, are you not choosing something just because it's hard? Then you might want to think about it. So like examples that are anatomy related, and I go back to my husband again, super tall, super long arms. Doing pull-ups is like a production. Like it's ridiculous because he's got these crazy long arms and a big, heavy, long body, right? Like he is not built for probably cranking out pull-ups. Whereas me, I'm a woman, so that part's harder. But like I have shorter arms, like, if you're like compact, muscular, like it's easier for me anatomy-wise. But should he not do pull-ups because he's tall? I don't think so. I don't think that's accurate. And he likes to do them, and it's good. And it's a very functional, good exercise. Another example for me is like the rowing machine, right? Like a C2 rower. It's so hard because I'm kind of short and I have short limbs, like I don't have long arms or legs. So for me to get like a nice full pull range of motion, like I'm working so hard, even with really good form. Like I like doing it, but it is hard for me. My body is not set up to be like killing it at rowing. Whereas this guy, just amazing, super long arms and legs, like so good, right? So both of those are examples of exercises that at face value, you might be like, that's not really for me just because of my body type. But they're challenging and they're good exercises. So we're going to do them anyway. Right. So there's no sort of like black and white answer in terms of exercise selection. There are always other options. You don't have to do anything, but maybe don't discount something just because it's challenging either. Right.
Yeah. I think that goes to say for split squats, split squats, I feel like there's so many different variations of split squats that everybody can find a split squat that works for their body structure. But 9 out of 10 times people hate split squats because they're so freaking hard. So yeah, that goes to say, just because it's hard, doesn't mean that it's not something you should do, because you do hard shit, you build resilience and you get better at it. And then eventually you'll be like, oh, these split squats, maybe they're not that hard.
I kind of like, I'm liking split squats lately. I've been doing like a lot of like the rear leg elevated split squats, and maybe it's because I haven't done them long enough, or maybe I'm not going heavy enough. I feel like I am, but like they're hard, but I like them. I don't know. Maybe people are being a little dramatic about the split squats. Like they're kind of fun. They just feel like they feel good to me because I'm like, they're really hitting what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, they're
hitting.
hard.
Like they're effective. They're hard but effective. Like I feel it where I'm supposed
I have a love-hate relationship with them.
Yeah, it's complicated. Yeah,
it's very complicated.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on.
We have another question. Do you want to?
Yeah. So hold on. Let me come back to Celeste is asking, I'd love to hear more about why having 3 servings of protein a day, she says, putting you in a positive protein nitrogen balance, optimizes muscle mass. My goal is to get stronger, not just bigger. So optimizing for muscle would be ideal. Okay. So she's asking, I think she's asking like, why is it optimal to split it into 3 meals versus eating it all at once or something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is a great question. I'll kind of just tackle it as concisely as I can. So basically, at least I recommend, and we've talked about this in the past, splitting your protein between like there's like a fly in here. That's annoying. 3 to 5 meals a day, for most people to optimize, right? Doesn't mean that you always have to do that. Doesn't mean that you can't have some days where you eat 2 big meals a day, whatever it may be. We're talking about optimizing muscle gain. So typically the biggest thing is that you're getting your overall total protein for the day. That's number 1. Like if you can't do that yet, then don't focus on the optimal. So what's your goal? Are you hitting that? Then, and this will also make it easier to hit that goal, is basically dividing up your protein into even amounts throughout the day, throughout your meals, right? So if you're eating 3 big meals a day, ideally you want, for most people, to hit at least 25 grams of protein minimum. This is going to depend, this is going to depend on the individual too, because someone who is smaller, right? Someone who's just less of a human, that's a weird way of saying that. Just a smaller human, a smaller human being is going to have obviously be lower in body weight, lower muscle than, you know, a bigger human being with lots more muscle. So we have to take that into context. Someone who's 130 pounds versus someone who's 300 pounds with tons of muscle, their protein threshold is going to be a little bit different. So that's why I say, like, for most people, 25 grams minimum at each meal is what I recommend. I typically recommend over 30, 35, just because, that for most people allows you to hit your goal throughout the day. And, 4 to 6 ounces of meat with some other supplemental protein in a meal, you can easily hit that 30 to 40 grams. So that's just kind of overall, those are the main focuses. And the reason for this is because in order to optimize muscle gains, we want to make sure that we're hitting our muscle protein synthesis threshold. And that's really just like, muscle protein synthesis is just a fancy way of saying, like, turning on that signal that says, hey, build muscle because I want some muscle. And that occurs from making sure that we are resistance training and optimizing our protein intake throughout the day. So I kind of, you've probably heard this, people say, like, oh, in order to turn on muscle building, you have to flip that switch, right? That leucine switch or leucine threshold, which means you just have to make sure that in that one meal, you're consuming enough protein to get you over that threshold. So you send the signal to your body that's like, hey, I hit that threshold, let's build the muscle, right? And you're keeping in that positive, she mentioned nitrogen balance, positive protein balance, basically, right? Versus a negative one. We don't want to be in a negative balance if we're trying to recover and build muscle. So consuming enough protein in one specific meal will ensure that you're getting enough leucine in that meal as well. And this is where complete protein is important, right? So, making sure that those 25 to 35, let's just use that range, 25 to 35 grams in that meal is made up of complete protein that has all of the amino acids, right? We have multiple amino acids, and we want to make sure it's complete so that we can get enough of that leucine and enough of those other amino acids as well to overall stimulate that muscle protein synthesis, which then will lead to building more muscle and recovery down the line. And I just want to use this analogy because it helps me to remember. Like I said, amino acids are just what protein is made of. It's just the fancy sciencey term. Protein is broken down into amino acids. There's lots of amino acids. I'm blanking on the amount. There's like 20, 19, I don't know.
Or something like that.
20,
I don't know.
yeah.
There's 9 essential ones, right?
9 essential. And then like, there's like non-essential and conditioning essential. We won't get into that. But basically you want a broad amount of amino acids to be able to facilitate as much of that MPS, muscle protein as possible. And so I think of it like this. Leucine, I like to think about as a key, right? So it's that key or that flip, that switch, right? And then I think about the other amino acids as more of like the gas in the gas tank, right? So just think about this, right? We're using a car analogy. I don't know anything about cars, but this one always has stuck with me. If you have gas in your gas tank is full, right? You need that in order for your car to run, right? You need that fuel. However, if you have no key to turn the car on, you're not going anywhere, right? So we can think of the essential amino acids, BCAAs, we've talked about those before, leucine as kind of the key to the car, right? So that helps to kind of turn that switch on, rev up the engine. Now you can go somewhere. However, you don't just want to load up on leucine, because if you have no gas in your gas tank and you try to turn your car on, you're not going to go anywhere either. So you need both of them, right? You need to have the full, complete amino acids. It's just some of them, i.e. leucine, are kind of those switches. And then the last thing I'll mention here is that it's not just like, oh, you get over this threshold and now you can all of a sudden build muscle. It's more of kind of like if we want to use the switch perspective, kind of like a dimmer switch. So like if you only ate 15 grams of protein in your meal, does that mean that you got no muscle building because you never hit that threshold? No, it just means that maybe you didn't optimize, right? So if we're thinking about like a dimmer switch analogy, maybe the dimmer came up a bit. And so you got a little bit of that, but you didn't go up all the way to completely turn on the light or turn on that muscle building. So people kind of get that confused. Like, oh, I've only had 15 grams. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of it. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that to optimize over the long term, you'll likely want to make sure that turn the car on all the way, have gas in the tank, and or make sure that that switch is all the way up so you're optimizing that. Did I just confuse you, or did that make sense? Was that good?
I think that was great. Two great analogies. I know nothing about electricity or cars, but I totally followed.
Awesome.
And no, I think that was beautiful. I think that's super, super helpful. I have nothing to add to that.
Amazing.
I do have a rant though. Do we have enough time
for
a rant before we
let's rant it up, and then I'm gonna go eat some protein because I'm hungry.
Yeah, and I have to pee, so this will be quick, but TMI, guys. Whatever. I don't care. Okay, so this is a rant that I have, and it's just very timely. And I literally just read this article like right before we started recording, and I was just like, oh, and it got my blood boiling. So, and I might actually like put something on social media about this. I don't know, maybe not. I'm so apathetic, but I guess I like to talk about it here because this is a platform and I can talk to you about it. And I think people who are interested will listen. And I don't know, social media, we'll see. Anyway, New York Times article just came out. And let me see if I have it up. The actual title was Meet the Men Who Eat Meat and Only Meat. Okay. And the first line of the article, just to further enrage me, the first line of the article says, "Girl dinner, this is not." Okay. And I saw that title and I said, I bet anybody who's listening, $4 trillion that they are going to mention Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Liver King. Who else do we got? Paul Saladino, Sean Baker. Okay. The top culprits, right? And I skimmed through this article, every single one of those guys, every single one. And it's just talking about these extreme dudes and also some TikTok influencers who eat, frozen bone marrow from the fridge and call it a snack. So again, totally just the complete tip of the iceberg, right? And it's making me mad for a couple of reasons. One, because if you Google carnivore cookbooks, the top 20, I don't know, maybe half of them are female authors. Okay. So it's not just men doing this. And it completely is, it's just like solidifying these stereotypes that hyper masculine and for some people problematic men are espousing this high protein diet that of course all these other studies are coming out saying it's bad for you, but these like hyper masculine problematic dudes are talking about it and they're causing all these problems. And then the whole girl dinner thing is saying like, of course women aren't doing this, women aren't eating too much protein. And it's like, I don't even want to be in a position to defend carnivore as a trend, and I don't want it to come across, and I'm sure it does, I don't want it to come across like bitter that these things keep happening and no one's talking to me or other women in the space. But like, I wrote a book with carnivore in the title. Like, I wrote a book all about eating organ meats, and I know I'm not that popular, so probably they'd have to check the second page of Google to find me, and no one's doing that. But it's just lazy journalism. It's so lazy. And it's like, it's this echo chamber that I had mentioned just literally recently in a social media post about like why I don't even want to keep up with this stuff anymore, because it's just an echo chamber. And it's like, this is the New York Times. They're a big publication. They could have done some research. You know what would have been more interesting? Writing a book or writing an article about women carnivores, because that's bucking the trend, right? Like, and there are a ton of influencers. It doesn't have to be me. There are a ton of influencers out there who are bigger than me and who I may not even agree with, who are hyper carnivore women who only eat red meat. Did you talk to any of them? No, but they are out there and you do not have to search that hard to find them. So I'm just like, again, how you're only exacerbating this like very extreme end of the spectrum that maybe isn't that helpful or is maybe kind of ridiculous. you aren't like diving into like, why are people eating mostly meat? Is there a bigger community outside of these couple weirdos that everyone talks about all the time? Like, could you do a little bit more work and like research a little bit more and see the way you do with the vegan trend? Like, why can't we? So anyway, it's just, am I being valid though? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, and like, again, I'm not even a carnivore. Like, I don't even necessarily agree with all of this stuff. I think
Yeah.
eating more protein is good. I think for some people, eating mostly animal protein is good. I think for some people, temporary carnivore diet approaches can be fine. But I'm not trying to like be the next person I'm not saying like pick me. I'm just saying like you're being so lazy and it's not helpful because people are just going to look at it and be like, oh, these crazy weirdos again. Like Joe Rogan's ruining the planet and he's what's wrong with men or whatever. And it's like, that's not even what the point of this is. But you didn't want to do the research and like make this interesting, Anyway, that's my rant.
I love it. I mean, I don't
Mic
pay
drop.
attention to that stuff because exactly why? Like, why?
You don't care. I mean,
It's
I
just
guess
all
I need to
BS.
stop, but like, the normal people, if we completely stop caring, I mean, I guess in a way, maybe this stuff would go away if people stopped reading and getting provoked by it. I guess that's true. But I also just wish that, there was just more time and thought put into things. And I know our attention spans are shorter than ever. And I know that at the end of the day, people are only going to write stuff that is going to get people's attention. It's the same way that, like I was saying, the Instagram algorithm is like purposely sending me stuff I hate that I've never clicked on before because that will, I guess, get people more active on the app than sending them stuff they like, which I think is so disgusting and stupid. But that's the world we live in right now. And anyway, it just annoys me. But there is, I mean, again, at the end of the day, there is a pretty big community of women eating carnivore or carnivore adjacent, and they didn't even do the tiny 2 minutes of Googling that it would take to find them. And that's annoying. So that's all I have to say about that. And maybe since Rachel isn't as passionate about this as I am, and that's okay, maybe anybody who's listening, if you have some thoughts, and again, you're allowed to disagree with me. You're allowed to be like, calm down, Ashleigh, chill out. It's not that serious. Whatever you want to say, I would love to hear
Email
your feedback.
Ashleigh and be like, shut up.
Yeah, stop talking about meat all the time. Relax. And I'll say no. But, we can have that conversation. But anyway, we would like to hear your thoughts. And if there are things like this that are in our world that you want us to talk about or address, that's what the email is for. That's why we answer your emails on the podcast. So send us
muscle science for women at gmail.com.
That's right.
And sign up for our programs because we are awesome.
I think we're almost done.
Wow, I need to work on our promotions.
I mean,
our programs are great. I promise. They don't suck.
Is
that good? Was that good?
They don't suck at all. In fact, they are awesome and they're very helpful.
Oh, sorry.
No, go.
No, I just wanted to talk about one thing that we are doing now as well, which we didn't really talk about this, but I know that you're going to be fine with it. So
great. That's how our business decisions are done behind the scenes, by the way.
If you have taken one of our programs and you refer a friend to our programs and they sign up for it, you can get a referral code. This is great. You can get a referral code for another program or a future program. So if you're interested in that, just reach out to us and we will get you set up with that. Basically, it's just like any other referral program. You refer a friend, you get a discount, and it's for future though, so it can't be applied back applied. Like if you've already taken the program, yeah, because that would just be a lot of work, and I don't know how to do that. So future programs and workshops and all that jazz. Well, so just let us know.
I am here to say that I don't agree to that. No. I think that's a great idea. Because again, we're just trying to get the word out to more people and we don't put ads anywhere. So this is how we do it. But we have never had anyone go through any of our programs and I mean, this would be weird advertising, but we've never had anyone go through the programs and say like, this didn't help me. This wasn't enough. It didn't
Yeah.
give me what I wanted. You know, across the board, people are like, you over delivered. This is amazing. I love this. This is helpful. And we really are proud of our products and we stand by them 100%. So I think that
100.
you will not be disappointed. Say that. Now let's get out of
Yes.
here because this is
Yeah.
devolving
I'm
quickly
hungry.
and we gotta go protein up.
Yes.
All right. Well,
All
thanks
right.
everybody for listening and we'll see you next time.